Guatsi, Hopa, Bonjour. My name is Michael Ray. I'm the director of the American Indian Program. And we welcome you to the 10th anniversary of the American Indian Student Center at New Mexico State University. The American Indian Student Center is one of those places on campus where students can be a student, don't have to represent all 576 tribal communities here in the United States and the countless that are around the world. This is also one of those places on campus where students are able to hang out and be in a surrounding that reflects their community. As you notice, we don't have necessarily just white walls on our campus. We wanted to make sure that the walls of this building reflect the state of New Mexico. You'll see the fields of sage, you'll see the brown dirt that's all over our state, but also you'll see the gray mountains and the red mountains that continually sprawl across our state of New Mexico. We want to share the story of how the American Indian Student Center came to be and the various changes it went through to become the home that we have at the American Indian Student Center now. So with that, we will have Dr. Don Kapan start us out, as he was the director of the American Indian Program as it started out the creation of the American Indian Student Center, or the Native American Cultural Center.
My name is Don Kapan. I am Nistu Pikani, Nitaniko Chimaki. My Indian name is Stabs Down. I'm Blackfeet. Of course, my American name is Donald Pepin, and I'm a professor here at New Mexico State University in the anthropology department. Well, it actually started when I came on board in 2000 as the director of the American Indian Program, and actually I was coming from Indian country and working at tribal college. I was actually kind of appalled by the fact that we only had a small room, like 20 by 30, for over 450 Native students. I mean, it just seemed kind of outrageous to me, really a cramped space. And with that, they had me write a letter for them to the president of the university, who was Dr. J. Goosh at that time, expressing this concern.
And Christina Chavez Kelly. In July of 2000, Jay Googe became the president of NMSU, and I was in charge of organizing his welcome. And so on his first day when he was arriving to NMSU at Hadley Hall, we had a wonderful, diverse welcome that included some of our American Indian students welcoming him in their native prayers. He had never experienced that in his life, and he was amazed. He met some of our American Indian student leaders at that time and some of our American Indian faculty. We planted the seed on that July 1st of 2000. We already knew that American Indian Program was way overcrowded in Garcia Annex. We knew there was no place to expand. And so Don completed a vision to action plan that was formally issued in July of 2001. And that plan indicated how crucial it was for us to establish more office space for American Indian Program. It fit in beautifully with a strategic plan that the university had issued saying, how are we going to diversify? So it was that plan that said, NMSU administration, we need more space. We need our own building. We need a place where our students can come. And it was Don who penned the name Native American Cultural Center.
I had that data too, because I had to do a needs assessment way back when it started with all that data over the years. But I also had to do our own little study on looking at space utilization, looking at the numbers, occupancy rates, students using facilities. That's a whole bunch of data too, and that's something people aren't aware of. That's a heck of a lot of work too, but we were able to do that and that was part of what was important, having that database for the university. And for the American Indian program, we had an action plan of how to do these kinds of things. I came here with a lot of administrative experience working with tribes and that. So that way we were able to put it in writing and I believed it in my heart, and I think a lot of us did, and I think all of us as Native people have that desire to improve our own people's situation. Sometimes that's why we go to school.
In August of 2001, President Gouge and the administration said yes. They gave their approval for a need of a facility that would actually institutionalize NMSU's commitment to the NMSU American Indian students. And we were very active in lobbying, not only President Gouge, but others. Gouge was so far ahead of prior administrations and told Don, give me a list of every pueblo, every tribe, educate me. Wanting to learn, and he learned quickly. And Don taught him fabulously. So they did. They traveled to every tribe, every reservation, and Jay did that within the first 4 months of his administration. President Gouge came back and told Sam Maras, who was working in facilities and planning, draw a plan. I want a plan, work with Don Pepin, work with American Indian student leaders and our faculty to come up, and Sam did.
I'm Sam Miraz in the facilities planning, started to develop the concept. I worked with him on actually developing some initial conceptual drawings and in that kind of thing. Some because the other part, and there's so many steps of this that you can almost leave out some things. We had to get involved in the master plan that was going on at that time in the university, and that's a whole process. And so that was good and timely for us because everybody in the university gets to look at this master plan and have input. And so that's where students and all of us had input into that.
Well, in those years, it was like, oh my gosh, then we're going to be competing with the Stan Fulton Center. We're going to be competing with a new business college complex. We're going to be competing with what are we going to do when we demolish Regents Row? And there was all this competition. We need a new generation facility for the old PPD, which is now Facilities and Services, and all these things competing. The things all aligned beautifully because in January of 2003, then Bill Richardson becomes the governor. Richardson campaigned heavily with our American Indian Pueblos, tribes, and reservations, and he said he was going to help them. So then I said, we're going to work with Richardson so he can help us.
Yeah, I then met with Representative James Rogers Magdalena, who we already knew and had been supporting New Mexico State for a long time, actually set up a hearing with us during the legislative time with the Legislative Finance Committee. And in that first meeting, that's where we're able to share with them the conceptual drawing, the need for the facility, and
American Indian program, but ultimately our students. It was beautiful because now we had the governor, we had key legislators, American Indian legislators, we had key legislators in Doña Ana County, led by Senator Mary Jane Garcia. We had the Board of Regents at NMSU saying we're going to give Gouge whatever he wants. And we had Don Pepin saying, oh my gosh, I can get our Pueblo governors, our tribal leader and the president of the Navajo Nation to support this Native American Cultural Center. The thing that came into alignment is in March of 2003, a person that deserves a lot of credit is Representative James Roger Madalena. But he introduced the first legislative bill, House Bill number 1274, for planning and development funds for this building. Then we lose Jay Gouge. He leaves to go to a different university, and we're like, oh my gosh, here we go again. But we can't lose the momentum. In comes interim Bill Flores, who had been the provost under Jay Gouge, and he says, no, we're going to continue it, Christina. We're going to continue it, Don Pepin. Let the governors know we're not going to go back on our word. So he said, let's figure out how we get it done. So we still have Bill Richardson, we still have the legislators, and now we have the new president. Don Pepin makes his first presentation formally to the Board of Regents in January of 2004.
Things is that the President Martin made sure that the Board of Regents constantly knew about this. So I was always invited to the Board of Regents sessions to give a little report on progress and take a few minutes. So again, it's just a lot of effort, and you need to.
Beginning in October of 2004, Mike Martin did the same thing Jay Gouge had done. He went with Don Pepin, another repeat, and they traveled to every pueblo, every tribe, and the Navajo Nation. Mescalero was easy because it was so close, but to every northern before the legislative session. That was in October.
A lot of times to the tribes and to the pueblos. In fact, we flew to Window Rock and spoke before the Dene legislature, and that was an amazing experience for me, where I had the opportunity to get up and talk about the facility. So there's a lot of this kind of background thing always going on, and I remember, I think even before then, Flores flew all the way up in the university had an airplane. They both had this airplane at that time up to Dulce to talk to the Apache people. So those were all the things that were going on that a lot of people don't realize, and that's why I'm glad you're doing this, because it just seems like, well, it's just a simple matter of putting a proposal in and getting it funded through the legislature, but it's a heck of a lot of work, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. So
Then enter Representative Reid Begay from Shiprock. And Representative Begay said, I am going to go meet with the governor, Richardson. And I'm going to say, Richardson, we need funding. Good talk, but I want to see your money. You have a lot of money, Governor. And Representative Begay was the first legislator that went to Bill Richardson and said, what money can you give us?
again, we started visiting some of our Native American legislators, who were Navajos, and that about this initiative, and you know, it was. I could say that there's just so many things we had to do, but eventually Reid Begay, he set up a meeting with the governor, Richardson, Bill Richardson. We had 5 minutes, and we talked about. And by the way, when we done all the work with Sam and that on the conceptualization, the estimated cost was a $6 million building, 2-story round building, somewhat like what we have now, which is just 1 story there. And so that was the target amount we worked with, was $6 million. And 5 minutes with the governor, and he pledged $3 million. So I was really surprised, talking to someone 5 minutes, and of course Richardson was really friendly with Native Americans. He was the first one in the state to actually hire a lot of people in his cabinet and create positions that involved working with Native Americans. So in some ways it was not surprising. But then in the meantime, the Legislative Finance Committee appropriated, I think it was something around $380,000 for initial planning and development. And those funds were then used to hire an architectural firm, and I remember the acronym, ASCG Incorporated. And if you ask me to spell that out, it would probably, I may not get it right, but they were a Native American firm actually working out of Alaska and had a lot of experience. Of course, there was a proposal advertisement by the university that had to go through all that process and a request for proposals, and they were actually hired to start the actual doing the architectural work to design the building.
In April of 2005, our President Mike Martin and Provost Bill Flores host a tribal leadership conference on NMSU campus solely to discuss the Native American Cultural Center, what its purpose was going to be, how we were going to recruit our students, how we were going to dedicate monies for faculty, and how we needed their help. And what did they expect of the center? What input did they want to give us? Because we weren't going to tell them what we wanted them to do. We wanted them to tell us what they expected. We wanted them.
I'm Jeanette Haynes Ryder. I'm professor of curriculum and instruction in the College of Education. So I started here in August of 1996. So I believe I've entered my 25th year at NMSU. And so in years past, we did have some tribal leader forums in which there were gatherings, and those were talked about in terms of what was the status of the education of the students, of those collaborations, of their partnerships, and certainly the issue of space and place came into those conversations.
And it was a phenomenal conference. And the tribal leaders couldn't believe we had never done it before. It was just spectacular. In May of.
And so we decided to have the celebration on campus and invite everyone that we could think of to participate in that. And actually the governor did come down at that time during that celebration, and we had like a dedication ceremony to reinforce with everyone that this is an initiative, and the governor at that time talked about his pledge of support. He talked about the legislative support. A lot of the people were there involved in this. Mary Jane Garcia was there. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Roger and Ray Gay there, and others, but and that's where of course the students participated in that process, and later on we'll see there's more student participation. So
Don Kapan in October of 2006 went up to Santa Fe and reported to the New Mexico Indian Affairs Committee and to the New Mexico Tribal Education Commission. He was wanting to make sure that everyone knew what we were doing at New Mexico State, because no other university in our state was building this type of facility. And especially for us, that NMSU so far away in the little southern part of the state was planning on spending $6 million, albeit allocated with the governor's support and the legislator's support. We had also committed as a university to raise the $1 million. We were going to make this a reality.
Is that the message to the students is, the great message is to persevere, but to have that vision and really believe in it is important to continue the process for those of us that were part of that dream. And you did mention other colleges, for example, UNM. When I asked them for a support letter, they were really reluctant. Well, we need a facility too, because I did go to the other colleges and universities, and it was the same story. And eventually UNM came around and said, well, maybe you can be the first. We all have this need, so we will support it.
Second groundbreaking in October of 2007, because we're wanting to keep pushing and saying, we're not going to let these people forget. We want the money, and the process is so lengthy because you have to get all these approvals. You have to get the approvals done at the university. You have to get the approvals done through the legislature, the approvals done through the governor, through the Department of Finance, and it's rather lengthy and at times frustrating because we have this beautiful drawing and then all of a sudden they say we're not going to have enough money, so we have to start cutting. Where are we going to cut? It's like
that was, in some ways, it was actually kind of confusing for some people because before we kind of had this dedication with the governor and that, and some people kind of assumed, well, that was the groundbreaking, right? That's what started out. Well, no, that was just to keep the initiative going and to garner support from everyone. So yeah, so we did the actual groundbreaking, and that's where we decided it would be important to have the students be the ones that were put in the forefront of that. And so, as you know, you were direct.
So during the groundbreaking, I was another one of the representative students, as I was a president of the Native American Business Student Association here at NMSU. So we were there. This was a great opportunity and a great time to bring everybody onto campus who had been a campus partner, a supporter of the American Indian Student Center, at the time the Native American Cultural Center as it was called. So Dr. Pepin brought us on and talked about how we would be having this building here at New Mexico State University to create that sense of community on campus. And so it made those plans that much more of a reality. We had seen conceptual drawings, we had seen the plans, but having broken ground, it meant that there was going to be the motions that are set in place to have everything continue going on. So when we turned the earth, it was a start of something. Those seeds were planted. It was not only just on paper anymore. It was in the ground. It was going to be it was going to grow. It was that time to come together, to give that nurturing words of wisdom, that words of congratulatory, words of support that their center was going to be here. And it was just an awesome time to bring everybody together and see the continuation of see the continuation of all the work that our legislators, that our directors, our staff members, our faculty here at NMSU were able to bring together.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Paul McCourse. I attended the New Mexico State University College of Business and Finance, a really great experience at New Mexico State University, and I feel a lot. I feel a lot of that success that I had there is thanks to having that American Indian program. But yes, I did serve as the president of the American Indian Science and Engineering Society. It was a celebration. It's really what it was. It was a celebration. It was a joyous time. There was so much good energy in the air. There was dancers. There was good words being said. The groundbreaking also largely was a prayer. It was a prayer of thanks and gratitude. It was a prayer that the vision of the AISC continues on well into the future, indefinitely, and a prayer that the AISC can continually fulfill the vision of supporting American Indian students, and in that vision, and them being able to become leaders.
So that's where we really involved the students in that part, and that was intentional because we wanted them to, because this was really about the students, as you know, and so they were involved all the.
We wish to thank you for joining us for this first part of the story of the American Indian Student Center. We thank all of those who were able to come and talk about their experience and the story that became of the American Indian Student Center. We also thank you for welcoming us into your home, into your area, as we wish we could have had the opportunity to bring everybody to the American Indian Student Center for a big gathering. We look forward to that time when we're able to come together safely. And as many of our colleagues have been able to talk about, the American Indian Student Center is a place for all students. So if you have ever walked over or walked by the American Indian Student Center, have ever wondered what's behind those mirrored glass, come on in, come join, come ask us, because we definitely would love to have this place be one of the places that you call that community away from community on campus, regardless of your background. We will continue our conversation as we talk about the grand opening of the building called the American Indian Student Center. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again.